What's up YouTube, Daya here from Zephyr Wargames. With Nationals coming out at the end of the month for the UK and then Euros right at the start of July, I thought it would be best to do an update of the top 5 metagame decks right here, right now. I do not believe that there will be a ban list coming out or any kind of emergency changes between now and the end of Euros, especially with the new in-time procedures. The only thing that changes, as far as I'm aware, between now and between Nats and Euros is we actually get BLLR 2, so Battles of Legends 2, which, you know, there's speculation going around that the BA Link Monster and, of course, Needle Fiber could be in there. Now, if they are in there, that might change the meta a little bit more. It'll only make Sky Strikers a little bit stronger, but it also might change the rest of the decks and change this top 5. But for now, this is my personal top 5 decks that I believe either have a chance of getting into top cuts of events or just causing a lot of issues that could possibly be the meta. Now, some are down to personal preference and some are, in my opinion, the out and out, there's no question they will be in the meta. So we'll start off with number 5. And number 5, we've got Spirals with, of course, the Nightmare Engine. Now, the Nightmare Engine kind of reinvented Spirals, let them come back into the light after they got a huge hit on the ban list. And then, of course, they got another little knock on the ban list with Ancient Fairy Dragon being banned as well. But the Nightmares still allow them to have a bit of consistency in order to flood the board, get their main power play on board, and on top of that, being able to get double agent, a double pop-in Dryden that doesn't have any kind of downside as long as it's as long as it's equipped, is always going to be damaging, and then the Nightmares just help extend the board and plays. As an honourable mention, at around this spot as well, we do have Altergeist. Now, the reason Altergeist aren't solid in my top 5 is because there's still time for them to develop and still time for them to actually make an impact. Now, they were held back before this ban list because of Draco's Masterpiece getting on board. They had no real outs to him. Now that he is gone, of course they have more outs to him. They just haven't had their chance to shine yet, especially with Sky Strikers now coming in and taking the bout, and of course the change of end of time procedures. So now moving into number 4 is the good old faithful Dracos. Now, the reason True Dracos are in here is because they can play so many anti-meta floodgate cards, it's unreal. If Vanity's Emptiness ever came back, you know, this deck would just be incredibly insane. Especially now that you can mix it with Domain. Yes, they've lost their powerhouse of Masterpiece, but they brought back Dynamite Knight, and then of course Knight allows them to turbo out their traps a little bit more. They still have the ability to play searchable skill drains. They've got 3 Ignises now. Yes, they're not as powerful, but if played the right way, they don't need to rely on being Masterpiece dependent. They can just rely on their back row a little bit more. That in turn means they're easier to combat and counter, but they're still very, very powerful. And the fact that they can play pretty much any anti-meta card that can out the rest of this top 5 definitely deserve to be in the top 5. And my personal opinion is that it's a little bit better than the Spiral Engine just because of those floodgate abilities. Now moving on to number 3, of course, we have the Gokis. Now, Gokis with Nightmares, again, are incredibly powerful and hugely consistent. They have a lot of search power, and there's very little you can do because the Gokis are so... Well, not very little you can do, there's Drawn Lock Burn and stuff like that, but what I mean is, because there's so many different Gokis and they play a huge range of Gokis in their deck, you know, no matter what you do, if you ash one Goki in the graveyard, they're just going to get it off the next one. So you do have to draw and lock them to stop them going anywhere. But if you can't stop them, they will OTK you or extra link you. They've got both first and second turn plays to go through, and they're very, very consistent and very, very powerful. Moving on to number 2, there's no surprise here. With the new change in time procedures, Tricksters kind of take the rule on this one. Now, Tricksters obviously being able to burn you through, especially helps them on the time in the round procedures. For those who don't know what they are, you should really know by now that when time is called, you finish off that phase. There is no longer any turn times of 1, 2, 3 or 0, 1, 2, 3, however you used to play it. It goes straight into that phase. So for example with Tricksters, if you're in the standby phase, they will burn you and that will be game. Whereas if you're playing another game, you get hit in standby phase or your draw phase, there's nothing you can do Tricksters still have that all-round capability of burning you, whether it's in the draw phase right up to the end phase. They can win the game. And that is where they combo off nicely with number 1, and number 1, in my personal opinion, is Sky Strikers. Now, of course, this won the most recent YCS in New Jersey, I believe it was. And they kind of combo off with Tricksters themselves. So number 2 is probably Tricksters Pure, and number 1 is probably Tricksters with Sky Strikers. If we didn't have the new time procedures, I still think Sky Strikers will be placing up in the top rounds of these top 5 meta breakdown. But regardless, they're just so powerful. The fact that they're a 1 card into a link monster, they get a lot of recyclability, they got a lot of draw power. You know, the consistency is definitely there for the deck, and the power is there as well. Playing Tricksters in there on top of that just gives them a bit more solidarity, gives them a more beat power as well as burn power, and they will win a majority of the games, which is why you saw that at the new top 32 of YCS there were plenty of Sky Strikers, whether they were mixed with Tricksters or not. It is a very powerful deck, and that is definitely why it is at number 1 in my list. So, some other honourable mentions that I've got to go through as well is you've got to look at Pendulums. The reason Pendulums aren't in the top 5 is because even though they're incredibly powerful, and yes, congratulations for the 60 card Pendulums, that was a massive shock to everyone, and I'm glad that it actually did top. I just don't feel that they've got as much to compete with these top 5 decks right now, but again, I haven't seen enough of them since the ban list of Astrograph. They're still very, very powerful, do not get me wrong, and that's where positions 4 and 5 of the list kind of come down to personal preference of you saying, well, I think Pendulums are better than Dracos, or Dracos better, but you know, at the end of the day, it will come down to what type of player you are and what you feel. But regardless, I feel the top 3 are solidified in the Goki's kind of Trickster, Striker, kind of mix between those 3, and then the remaining 2 is entirely down to you and your own personal preference of what you feel goes in there. This is my personal list. There's no, you know, this is just what I feel will be the top 5 meta decks that will consistently get into tops around the events, and maybe even be in the consistent top or close to the tops of Nationals and possibly Euros, unless something massively changes in Battles of Legend 2. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. By all means, put down your top 5 below. I'd love to see what you guys think are in the top 5 meta as well. It'd be very, very interesting to see if we share the same opinions, or if there's a huge diverse change of all 5. And then, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of changes to positions 4 and 5 for you guys. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. And as always, guys, happy dueling. Also, YouTube, thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. And of course, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings, and many more Yu-Gi-Oh videos coming up for you all year round. So don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always, guys, happy dueling.